Welcome to Handforged, the podcast where real tradespeople share their real stories. Here at Handforged, we're dedicated to bringing attention to the trades, fostering a community of blue-collar professionals, and offering support through shared experiences and insights. Each episode will dive deep into journeys, challenges, and successes of our guests. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out in the trades, you'll find valuable tips, inspiring stories, and practical advice to help you navigate and thrive in your career. So grab your tools and get ready to be inspired. This is Handforged. All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Handforged. We are here with Mr. Rick White from Bradford Construction and Bradford Home Services. Me and Rick have known each other for a couple years, I guess, at this point. Met through a mutual friend, Brendan Moore, fucking master electrician. Shout out, Brendan. We kind of met through him and then kind of joined the same business networking group.
That's right.
Done some business together, and both companies are just kind of rocking and rolling and moving along at this point. So I'm glad to have you on, man. Glad to have you.
At Seacoast Cabinet, Raleigh, Mass., we offer a full range of services, from design to installation, tailored to residential and commercial applications. We carry 3 lines of American-made cabinetry to fit any budget, ensuring that you get the best quality and value. For more information or a free quote and design, head to seacoastcabinetne.com.
So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about Bradford Construction, Bradford Home Services, maybe some projects or something they have going on now?
So Bradford Construction, we primarily try to focus on new home builds, large additions, whole home renovations. We try to stay away from more of like the small remodeling projects, the little bathroom projects and things like that, and try to stay in that kind of realm where we kind of like our bread and butter, because we try to really stay really organized, and the value we bring is more, we bring more value when in those project size, those project values. I use the word value a lot, apparently, I just realized.
That's right. It's value. There's value in that, Rick.
And then Bradford Home Services. First off, I guess we found out quickly that a lot of people reach out to us for the smaller projects, for things like that. And we were turning a lot of that away because we just couldn't do it. Yep. And so that kind of came up with the idea based off our warranties that we would have to cut. When you build a house, you have to give a warranty. And we would like to come back to our new homes and kind of periodically just go through them, even without the customer calling us, to try to make sure that, the house is up to par with what we want it to be at too as well.
Yep.
And we kind of had, when I say I mean me at like 2:30 in the morning, not being able to sleep, had the idea of like, well, why can't I offer, what we do for someone that we just built a house for to, kind of everybody at large, right? So that's kind of how Bradford Home Services came alive. And so now we're able to take on pretty much anything at this point. Like we can come and we went the other day and fixed a door for somebody, an interior door that wasn't working right? And then while we were there, we, typically what happens is like 15 other things came up. And, now we're there for 5-6 hours when we were only going to be there for, half hour or something. But, which is cool because people like it, and it's kind of like a one-stop shopping for everything that could go wrong with your house. Yeah. So that's kind of because, people have like a few people they know, right? But they don't have somebody for everything, right? So now they're like, oh, who am I going to call for this? Who am I going to call for that? When really you could just call one person and we're going to get there, whether it's electrical, plumbing, mechanical, carpentry. Yeah. Because we've made those relationships ourselves through building houses and stuff. So, we only use the same crews on all of our projects. So when we build a house, it's the same crew every time we build a house, right? So it's the same electrician, it's the same plumber, it's the same framers, it's the same cast of characters no matter, where we're building or what's going on. So we kind of brought that same thing into the second company where we kind of, after that night of me being up to 2:30 in the morning, kind of got everybody together at the table within a couple of days and like, hey guys, look, this is my idea. Tell me if I'm stupid, don't be afraid to tell me it's a bad idea. And, if you guys are in, I'd like to, bring you guys kind of in with me and kind of build this together and we all scale together and we all grow together. And kind of the same theory of Bradford Construction Management, it's kind of the same conversation we had with them for that too, is like, look, we want this to be like a family, right? Like we have Christmas parties every year and all my trades are there, and if we do anything, they're coming, things like that, right? So it's a real family atmosphere. So that's kind of the same thing we brought in with Bradford Home Services, and they were like, yeah, we're in. It sounds like a great idea. And
yeah, I feel like there's like a huge need for that too, man, because a lot of the contractors that I know, builders that I've had on, guys that I've had on, don't want to touch any of that stuff.
Yeah.
They have the things that they do. Same thing that Bradford Construction is doing, building houses, doing big remodels, big additions, that type of stuff.
Yep.
But they don't really have the manpower or the bandwidth to be able to offer some of those smaller things. And, for me, I look at it like there's missed potential there, right? For like the handyman services, because like there are a lot of people that just need some small odds and ends stuff done that don't have the people to be able to do that.
Correct.
And like, I know that it's obviously easier said than done, because there's a scheduling part of things, there's the pricing part of things, there's all these different things that kind of move with that. But like, if you can have a construction company, why not have a division that does some of those smaller odds and ends things? It just seems like it makes sense.
Yeah.
Because like I have this investor that I used to do business with, and he huge investment company. They'd buy like entire blocks in neighborhoods, pretty much, and it would be like low income housing. They would kind of evict everybody, renovate the whole place, the whole block, and then bring in like a higher end clientele, like business professionals and that type of stuff. And they were doing a ton of work for a while. And then, things slowed down for them and prices on property went up, and, they couldn't make money doing it. So the guy one of the investors started a handyman service. And it's actually kind of funny how it all worked out, because the lady that ended up developing my website, her name's Laura Lee. She was awesome. And I got like an email, like a email marketing thing from somebody with this handyman service. And I'm like, this thing actually looks pretty sweet. So I reached out, being a cabinet guy, I was like, hey, listen, like, we have customers that are looking for handyman services all the time. On the flip side, like, we sell cabinets, we do design work, maybe we could work together. And like 10 minutes later, this guy called me back and he's like, hey, Frank. I'm like, what's up, man? How's everything going? He's like, not bad. He's like, you just replied to my email. I was like, what? I'm like, the handyman services? He's like, yeah. He's like, we couldn't do anything with the investment properties, so I started this handyman service. And he's like, it's pretty funny that I just started this marketing campaign about 3 minutes ago and you've already emailed me. But so he like put all that big stuff on hold, started his handyman service. Now he has like 15 trucks doing handyman stuff, and it's like, there's such a need for that, especially like older customers or, people that just aren't handy, or busy business professionals.
Yeah.
Like, like I can fix just about anything, but I don't touch anything in my own house because I get too much going on.
Yeah, we went the other day and changed smoke detectors.
Yeah, perfect.
Like, they were the ones that like they last, 20 years or whatever, and you got to replace the unit.
Yeah.
So we just went out and literally unplugged and plugged in new smoke detectors. And that was something
sweet.
That, it's like, okay, yeah, we'll do whatever, you need to get done, right? That's kind of the point of it, is like, you don't have to worry about anything, right? Like anything that goes happens, we're there for you. It's one phone call, right? And the other thing is, so we kind of kick it up a notch too, where we do home. So if you're a member, right? So we have memberships that we offer. There's 2 levels. There's a silver and a gold. I think the silver is like $25 a month and the gold's $40. The only difference between the two is the gold will give you emergency services. So like we'd come in the middle of the night, and if there's an active leak, we'd stop the leak and then be able to price the fix and tell you, what needs to be done. But one of the biggest things that comes with that is a home assessment. And so what we found on the home assessments that we've done so far, that we're actually giving the customer more information than what their home inspector gave them when they bought the house, right? Like they're like...
Not saying much in all cases.
Well, yeah. No, I know that. I believe me, I know that. But when you have someone like myself going to look at your house from your foundation to your roof, and I've been doing this for over 20 years, and I have I'm sure we'll get into kind of my background a little bit, but like I have a lot of different experience in a lot of different construction realms. Right. So, I can tell you what different cracks mean, and they tell, so we're literally going through, and then we're giving them an action plan, and we can, obviously price the action plan and get that done too. So it's a proactive approach too, not just all reactive. Yep. So it's kind of like, look, this window's leaking. Eventually, it's going to rot out the whole side of your house. Like, I'm letting you know now. It's like going to the doctor. You can either do it now or not. But I'm telling you that if you don't, it's going to be more money in 5 years. Yep. So we're helping clients stay ahead of that a little bit too, because we also find that people don't really know what they're looking at, right? So like they don't know. I can look at it real quick and be like, yeah, that's the problem. Where they just look at it like, oh, it just might need a little paint, and
Right.
it's like, no, dude, that's like, that's a structural issue.
Paint's not fixing that one.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not like John's pipe over here.
Yeah, that is an awesome pipe. Wait, that doesn't sound good at all.
John, you got a real nice pipe.
But again, getting back to your point, that's definitely needed is 100%. Especially the younger generation too coming up. Like, they don't really want to take care of this stuff either, right? Like, that's what they just want to, live in the house if they can afford a house right now, right? Like the way things are, but and not have to worry about, every little thing that could go wrong, or are you checking, your infrastructure, things like that. So
yeah, I mean, most people don't know how to do that. They don't know what to look for.
Yeah,
So that, I mean, again, like the reactive services are awesome, but like those proactive services, I think, is like
gonna save you money.
And it's like cherry on the top. That's awesome, because I don't know of any companies that are doing something like that.
Yeah, that's I don't either. I'm sure there's somebody out there. I just not off the top of my head, I don't know. But so that's kind of the basis of how it came, and what we do.
Yeah.
But,
so how did you get into the trades? I mean, how did you get into this industry?
So I grew up working for my father was a general contractor, and I always say, I mean, God, I've been doing this since I was probably old enough to walk into the garage, But I second sophomore year of high school, decided I was done with school.
Second sophomore year.
Okay.
Yeah, just wanted to clarify.
Sophomore year, I think.
Okay, so sophomore year.
Definitely the second of something. It just didn't go well for me. I played hockey my whole life, and when I realized that my grades needed to be on par for me to play hockey, that kind of all just went, south, unfortunately. And I decided I was going to go get my GED. My mother told me, you can't just go get your GED. Nobody just goes and gets their GED. And I was like, all right, well, now I'm definitely going to just go get my GED, right?
Tell me I can again.
Yeah, exactly. So I did. And then I kind of was like, oh, shit, man, now I can't go back, right? Like, so I kind of had that, wave of, what am I going to do now? Or type hit me. And so then I was with my dad, who was a general contractor full time, obviously, so now I'm 15, 16 years old. I think 16. And working for him full time, building houses and everything. I was a laborer, he wasn't like I went to work for my dad and he was like, okay, now you're, in charge of, I didn't know shit. Right. So he wasn't going to put me, in charge.
As my buddy Sam Chase's father used to tell him, you're starting with me, but you're lower than whale shit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I tell people I didn't have a first name for 5 years. They call me Geppetto. Yeah. That was my name. And it'd be like, Geppetto 2x10s, and I had to have a certain amount on my shoulder. Everybody would be screaming at me.
Yeah.
So I worked with him for a while, in 2000, I want to say 7, somewhere around there. He decided he was done. He didn't want to do it anymore. So I actually started my own company then, primarily doing windows and doors. I did that for a few years, had kids, got divorced. Then once I got divorced, I was like, all right, I can't be running this company and trying to pick my kids up from school and it's my days and all the stuff that comes with that, right? So I left and I went and worked for a company out of Boston that built data centers. We were New England's largest builder of data centers at the time. And
so building data centers, just like building the rooms?
Some of that is building the rooms. So we had a site in Boston where we basically just kind of built out within the building. And then they had another site in Lowell where they actually rehabbed this. It's the old Prince Pasta factory, actually. And we did a huge data center build out there, reinforced the building with a foot of shotcrete. I mean, there's some crazy shit that I've done in that. Data center builds are like nothing else. I mean, it's super heavy MEP. And then when we were working on that particular building, it was structurally insane. We put carbon fiber on the backside of the roof. So you could freaking put a bomb on that building and it's not going to budge.
No way.
Yeah.
Wait, so the data centers, they make them defensive?
Yeah. A lot of them, they try to make them so, you can't drive a car into it and cause damage, or man trap doors. So when you come in, you're in a man trap. So they'll allow you to go in that one door, but then you got to get clearance to be able to go through the next door, right? There's armed guards everywhere. It's super, secured.
Yeah.
You're holding the data of every major business you can think of, you know,
Interesting.
and government and, you know, so. And
I guess it makes sense. I guess I just never really thought about the build out of data centers and like what that would look like.
it's crazy. And
That's a very niche thing.
it is. Yeah. Like I'm the only one I know is put in like, you know, 15 modular chiller plants or like 300,000 gallon backup water systems, you know, water tanks. And
It's crazy.
that's not like for like a city, you know what I mean? It's just for one building, right? And we had like 4 vaults, direct vaults from the power companies and to our building. You know, at one point I think we were like trying to get more power from like other towns, and I don't know, it's crazy the things that goes on in that life. And I did that for about 9 years.
It's a cool experience.
Yeah, it was like nothing else for sure. I mean, and then like the preciseness and like you have to be super clean the whole time. You have to be really organized, right? And I mean, you're dealing with projects that range up to like $500 million, you know, things like that. And you know, obviously schedule is a big thing because these tenants want to move in. They want to get, you know, the downtime is huge, right?
Yeah.
So, so it was a really good learning experience, right? To be able to set myself up to what I'm doing now, right? Because it was a very much project management, very much like organizational skills and things like that. And being someone that dropped out of high school, you know, I'm a real quick learner. Like I can, you know, I'm not stupid, right? Like I could pick things up really well. And so I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to learn the shit out of this, right? And I did. And they actually sent me, I got to go to Wentworth. They sent me there for construction management and a few other and facilities management. So I learned a lot there too from that experience. And so after 9 years, I remodeled my kitchen. Nothing against kitchen people, but the guys that were coming, so I couldn't do everything myself. I tried to do, but you know, I had a full-time job, and so I had to sub out some work. And the guys that were coming in to do the work were like, I'm like, this is what residential construction's like now. Like this is ridiculous. You know, these guys. I had guys like in flip-flops taking, you know, moving demo work out of my house, and I'm like asking them, can you put shoes on? And like, I'm the asshole because I wanted to put shoes on. Like I caught a guy smoking in my living room, smoking a cigarette. And I was like, cause I had cameras in my house cause we had a dog, you know? And I'm like, can you not smoke in my house? I wasn't smoking. I'm like, dude, you were on camera. Like I literally, and the cigarette butt's still on the floor, you know? And like,
dude, what?
I shouldn't have to have these conversations with people, right?
Right.
Like, so I was like, I can do better than this. And it almost started like it was a challenge. Like, can I do it? Right. And I don't know if I ever really had like if my goal was to actually leave my job and do it full time, or if it was more just kind of like, I want this challenge. I want to try to see if I can build this and see if I can do it. And
see if I can do it better than the guy in flip flops smoking butts.
I mean, I hope to God I can do better than that. I mean, if I'm not doing better than that, then we're all, you know, we're screwed. But so excuse me, I started trying to get some work, you know, and I was going after additions and things like that. Because again, I wanted to make sure I was able to use my management skills, my project management skills. So going after those, I could work as more of like a GC and be able to manage trades. You know, I was building subcontractor agreements, you know, all this stuff to have it all in place. And I think I did like one small job at the time. And then I had a buddy, well, who I thought was a buddy, was going through some stuff, and he actually worked for me. And he worked at the same company I worked at. I was his supervisor. I was the project manager, and he was superintendent or something like that. And called me one night. He was obviously not doing well, and kind of was like left me this like belligerent message about how he was going to take me down and tell the company about my side business and all this stuff. And I didn't really put much weight behind it because I'm like, all right, well, he'll sober up in the morning and this will just go away, you know. But sure as shit, he went and told the customer, the company, you know, about what I was doing and all this stuff. And again,
was it some kind? Was there an issue with you doing that while you were working for them?
I didn't think there would be, you know,
conflict of interest.
So I didn't really think it was a big deal. But
it's not like you're trying to build data centers.
That's what literally word for word what I said to them when they sat me down, and they said it was a conflict of interest. And,
interesting.
And I was like, well, I'm not building data centers. Like I'm building home additions and stuff, you know. And they're like, yeah, well, you can't focus here, so you know, it's just not going to work for us. And I was like, all right, like, and it wasn't like, you know, stop doing that and stay. It was like, I don't know what else he said, you know what I mean? So it was like, we're cutting ties. And I had about 24 hours where I was like, shit, I just lost my job, you know? But It was 24 hours.
Yeah.
By the second day, I sold the job that I was working on, started on another one. By 2 weeks in, I had $800,000 in work that I was signing and getting going on. You know?
Shit.
I just was like, fuck this. Like, I'm not going to let this defeat me, you know, screw this kid. You know, and
One door closes, another one opens.
Yeah, man. And I just was like, took that 24 hours to kind of process it, and I just went right at it. And I haven't stopped since, you know. And it's funny because somebody asked me about it not too long ago, and I'm telling them the same story I told you. And I was like, at the end of it, I was like, you know, I think I kind of owe him a handshake. Like, I think he did me
thanks, man.
yeah, like you did me a favor without even knowing, because I never would have left.
Yeah.
I was content. I was, you know, it was safe. It was what I knew. I've been doing it for 9 years.
Right.
You know, like I don't think I ever would have actually, I don't know if any amount of money would have been like, okay, I feel secure enough to jump out, right?
Yeah.
And I never would have been able to sell the jobs I sold if I didn't leave. So it was like, he kind of did for me what I would never be able to do for myself.
Yeah.
Which was pretty cool. And I didn't know that until probably, you know, recently.
Yeah. That's one of those things like, hey, fuck you, but thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're a piece of shit, but thanks for everything you did for my family.
Right.
You know, because I had just had a baby too.
Yeah, it's scary.
Literally just had a baby. She was like just out of the hospital, you know. So I'm like, what am I gonna do? Right?
Yeah. I had 2 toddlers when I jumped out on my own. Stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, stupid. It's scary, but I did it, you know, risky.
Yeah.
You
Sink
know,
or swim though, right?
Sink or swim. And that's the thing. Like I take character traits seriously, right? Like I like to know people. I like to know who their character is. And I think that grit and resilience is one of those things that's top of my list for respect for people. And that just means like, you know, if I drop you off in the fucking ocean, middle of the ocean and walk away, like, what are you going to do? You know, sink or swim.
Yep.
And like the swimmers, those are my people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I feel the same
You
way.
know, I think that it just speaks volumes of people. You know, when your back's against the wall and fucking fire's on, then, you know, you're either fucking burning up or you're fucking after it, you know, and I love that shit. That's cool, man. And it's, you know what I love about this podcast is that, like, you know, we've known each other for a while, and I didn't know any of that.
Yeah.
You know, I knew that you had another construction job that you were doing that you left to jump out on your own, but I didn't know like the whole story, which is what I like about this.
Yeah, no, it's you know, again, I didn't realize how great of a story it was until I kind of sat back and, because when you're in it, man, you're just in it, right?
Yeah,
like you're just like head down, friggin'. You know, I tell people all the time, like when I actually just had this conversation with my daughter because she had a teacher that gave her a grade that she didn't deserve, and she was like afraid to go after it. And I'm like, when things are like scary to me, it's like I just put my head down and lean into it even more. You know, like I'm just gonna go at it even more because the more I go at it, the less scary it becomes. You know, so.
Well, and the other thing too is that like the thought of you going at it and what could happen or what's possible is always like way more scary than what the reality is. You know, so like you like scare yourself and then you end up going into it and it's like, wow, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah,
you know? Wait, that worked.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's just kind of, so I've had my head down just charging for 4 years, you know, and kind of just put my head up after someone asked me the same question you just asked me. And then I was like, oh shit, like, yeah, you know.
Oh shit, that's how that happened.
That's how that happened. yeah. You know, because I mean, it was like a 24-hour processing period, and then it's just head down, fucking go at it, man. You know, and that's. Can I swear? I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry. For sure, for sure. There's a few lines that we can't draw. Midget strippers are one of them.
I heard about that. That was like a prerequisite to me coming on. Do not mention midget.
John's pissed right now. He's like, fuck, I gotta edit another. But yeah, man, that's a cool story. So that was 4 years ago that happened?
About 4 years ago now.
Nice.
3.5 years, something like that. Yeah.
And so how are you doing, like, as far as the business growing, you know, from when you started to where you're at now?
So it's, what I like to judge it by is we have just hit, like in this year, really, where we haven't really pursued much marketing or graphic construction management, but people have come to us and they're like, hey, we saw this build or we saw that build, or like this girl I work with or my neighbor called, you know, told us that like we need to go to you. Like we love what you guys did, you know. We've landed most of our work that we're on currently from customers that we've built for or in a neighborhood that we built someone for. So that was always kind of the goal. Like I always wanted to have kind of like this brand where, you know, you'd want us to build your house type of deal.
You're sought after.
Yeah. And we're finally starting to trend that way. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So that's so to me, that's like the most telltaling of where the company is going and how we're doing. So
yeah, I love that, man. So as far as, business moving forward and kind of goals moving forward, obviously you just started up the Bradford Home Services. You got Bradford Construction going. I guess talk a little bit about both businesses and kind of where you want to see yourself in a year, 3, 5, 10 years. What is that projected goal for you?
So Bradford Construction Management, our goal is always to build quality homes, always to quality additions. We really would, we want to, so I went up and got trained for like passive homes and things like that. And I really would like to try to trend more into providing like the high energy efficiency type home, or build, whatever it may be, addition or home. It's hard with the additions because then the rest of the house is still kind of, unless somebody wants to remodel the whole house with it, but that doesn't usually happen often.
Right.
So trying to, educate people more to be able to get that opportunity to be able to use kind of the knowledge in that realm. We haven't really, because it's not the least expensive way to build either. So,
right.
But I think as people become more knowledgeable in it, and as we can teach people more about what we've learned about, energy efficiency and things like that, they can see the value in it.
Now, do you think that's an investment that you get a return on as a homeowner?
Yes, because you're spending less on utilities, right? You're getting a better quality built house, right? It's health reasons it's better, like so now if we're circulating HEPA filtered air through your house, that's it. You're breathing in better air quality than if you're living in the inner city and you're breathing in whatever the
crap,
whatever smogs in the air. But because we build even like at code level homes right now, they're so tight that you need HRV, ERVs. You need these things that are circulating the air in your house to be able to get you. To be able to, the house so you're getting air exchanges, right? So you don't want stale air that you're breathing in, things like that.
Yeah. How many times you breathe a day?
I don't.
22,000. 22,000 breaths a day.
Sometimes I feel like I'm like at like 20, like like I'm not breathing for a few minutes. Like
that's fucking funny. I was thinking more like I'm probably breathing like 25,000 times a day because I'm like, oh, fuck.
Maybe. Yeah, that's true.
Hyperventilating.
So there is, there's definitely, a return, an ROI on building like that. And the thing is code, like I said, right now is pretty tight, and code's basically trending, at least in Massachusetts, to passive levels, right? Like we just had another drop in HERS ratings down to I think a 42 now, which is a pretty tight, home on a blower door test and everything like that.
Wait, talk about that a little bit for people that don't understand, like me.
So if we're building anything over
42,
so if we're building anything over 1,000 square feet, we have to get what's called a HERS rating to even pull permit. So
is there a HIMSS rating? I feel like it's fucking sexist.
It sounds a little sexist, doesn't it? Yeah. I always thought it was like HERZ, but it isn't. It's like HER with a little S or something. I don't know. It's weird, man.
That's weird.
So the whole HERS rating thing is hard for me to understand too, because it's like we did one job where like the positioning of the house on the lot like made a difference on the rating, and
interesting.
The way the sun hits it, and I don't know, man. It was crazy, but so basically we have to hit this level, and it's a calculation of everything, right? So it's what you're using for insulation, what you're using for windows, appliances, what are you heating and cooling with, right? And all this kind of goes into this model, and it spits out your rating. And then we have to do a blower door test too, where we have to hit a certain level of, they're trying to suck the air out of the house and like see where it's leaking. So we failed the blower door test once by a little bit because we had an HVAC guy knock out blocking in between a stud bay to run line sets. And we didn't know because it was up in the attic. And the HERS rater was like, oh, we're not passing. And he went up in the attic and he found this. And he was like, this is why. And we're like, no way, man. It's like 14.5-inch opening, right?
What? Really?
We closed it in, did what he said we should do, passed.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow, it's pretty specific.
That's it's a tough time right now because I don't think anyone really understands the code and all this, even like the building departments, because there's this whole 1,000 square foot thing, like, because they say, oh, if it's over 1,000 square feet, you have to comply, right? And it's like, okay, but on an addition, that's 1,200 square feet. What happens with the rest of the house? Some inspectors are like, the whole house has to meet the new energy ratings, right? And some are like, no, just 1,000 square feet. So it's like from town to town, it's all over the place.
Right.
You know, and it's kind of a little bit of a, you know, when you say like explain it for people, like, you know, it's like no one, I don't even think the people that wrote the freaking code understand it totally. Right. You know, it's like, it's crazy.
It just sounds unrealistic, you know, especially if you're going to do, you know, if you're doing a 1,200 square foot addition, like how can you be responsible for the rest of the house? Exactly. And then what do you have to do? Like you tear apart the rest of the house and, you know, build a customer for all this stuff. Yeah. When they were just planning on doing a 1,200 foot addition, it just seems ass backwards. I mean, I get why, and you know the purpose of it, right? You know, they want everybody to be more efficient and all this stuff, but like, there's got to be like realistic expectations as far as stuff like that goes. I get it on a new build, but you know, on additions and stuff, it just doesn't seem like it makes sense. And then the other side of it for me is that, so obviously I deal in kitchens, right? And people using their hood vents. Like if you don't have air to suck out of the room, then it's not going to push any air out of the room. You know what I mean? So it's like you make these houses so tight that now the vent's not working, the hood vent's not working, no matter what kind of filters or how you're circulating the air out. So it's like, you know, the house has to breathe a little bit, man. There's got to be some air coming in.
So they'll tell you that the house needs to breathe mechanically.
Right.
So, you know what I mean? So in other words, that's why when your ERVs and things like that, or HRVs, you know, the ventilation, they vent the house, right? So it's, they'll tell you that's how your house should be breathing. Like, you know, not through the system, not through leakage, right? Not through, like it used to be like, oh, we want the walls to leak a little bit, right? So you get that air exchange, and you know, everybody's going to be sick. It's never going to leave the house, and it's like, yeah, well, now what they'll tell you is, okay, yeah, your house is breathing, but it's breathing mechanically, right? So hood vents is one of the ways that they actually take the hood vent into the calculation, you know, to see how much you know, what's the CFM on that, and what are you getting, you know, for air exchanges and things like that. So
interesting.
Yeah. Bathroom vents, you know, all that stuff kind of goes into, we had one job where we had to have a bathroom vent that was continuously on. Like it just never shut off. And I was like, I still don't understand. You know, it's like, you know, we just comply, right? Like to these things, but like sometimes I'm like, I really don't get it, but.
So when you run into these issues where you don't understand it, do you get an explanation from somebody? Or is it, this is the way it is and fucking do it and shut up?
Sometimes it's that. It's dependent on the inspector, right? I mean, some of the inspectors are like, they don't even care if they're wrong, right? They're just like, I don't care. This is what I want. This is what you're doing. Yeah. And some of them will give me a reasoning that might not even be a real reason. You know what I mean? And then some of them really know what they're, you know, the majority of them know what they're doing, and there's, you know, and they can tell you why, you know, but, it's usually the HERS raters too that will tell you what you need to do, you know, as far as that. But sometimes I'm still like, okay, you know, whatever you guys want, man.
Sure.
You know, I just want to do it how you want it done.
Well, and the thing is like, you don't want to create any bad blood with the inspectors. So it's like, correct. You got to comply. You can't be an asshole, because then they could really screw you over at some point. You know?
I would say that we do generally really well with the building inspectors, because we're probably above code most of the time, especially structurally, where we try to really be structurally sound, you know? So like we're probably oversizing a lot of things and stuff like that, just to try to keep that level, you know? But, you know, most of the time they're coming on their side. Like we do a lot of educating too with building inspectors too, that they don't really understand some stuff that's going on. Interesting. Not necessarily that they don't get like the general aspect of it, but like, you know, if we're doing something that might be a little like running sill sail at like the gap between the ceiling sheetrock and the wall sheetrock, sometimes if we're doing it's a blow door test, we'll do that because that's like a weak point in the system. So we'll run sill sail, you know, you put underneath the sill of the house. Yep. And we'll run that kind of stapled up before they put the sheetrock on, and then they'll put the sheetrock on and tape it. And that was actually one of our biggest Instagram videos. People were like so upset that we were doing that, and I'm like, they're like, I don't understand it. And like some people would like explain it, and some people then they'd like, you know, they just were like, what are you doing? And that actually was a recommendation from somebody that I knew that built passive homes for a blow a door test, because that's always like a weak point right there, that kind of seam that you have. So that kind of sealed that room in. Like we would do, you know, the whole room was sealed in that corner.
Interesting.
Between that and like caulking the bottom, you know, sheet before you stick it in, and you know, things like that. So
You know what's good about those arguments online, though? It boosts engagement.
Yeah, no, it does. I don't really get involved. I don't respond or, I don't even look at it half the time. But
Yeah, I was talking, my buddy Leon, he has a company called Kenco. He's a plumber.
Yeah.
And, he's got like 40, 50,000 followers on Instagram. And I was like, dude, how do you have so many followers as a plumber? Because like nothing that you do is like pretty.
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
if you do design build work, like there's a tangible, pretty thing to show. And like I can see people getting engagement and a lot of followers and shit. I'm like, you're fucking changing out pipes and boilers and shit. Like it's not that pretty. How the hell did you get so many followers?
Yeah.
And he made a couple of videos that caused issues. Like people had issues and they were talking shit online. And like there was a bunch of like, the trolls.
Yeah.
He's like, dude, all those trolls all boost my engagement like crazy. Got me a ton of followers. I was like, that's hilarious.
The craziest part about it is like usually the ones that allow us, like the times I will check, they're like freaking like gardeners and stuff. Like they're not even in the trade. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, what are you like? Come on, man. Like, so yeah, but it's the whole social media thing is tough, especially in construction. I feel like, because the thing too is like post COVID, like around COVID when everything kind of was crazy and everybody wanted to be a builder, right?
Yeah.
Like you had all these guys that were starting companies just because construction was so nuts, right? That had no clue. They probably never did construction in their life, but they're like, oh shit, it's $300 for a sheet of plywood right now. And jump on this and charge $6 million to do this kitchen rental, right? Like,
I can watch YouTube.
Yeah, exactly, right? And so like we just got one the other day, came in, and it was a 2019 job, and the guy said he was going to build this like big addition with a garage, fully done, heating system, hardwood, all this stuff, $150,000. And I was like, right when the guy told me that, I was like, there's no way this guy's doing this for $150,000. No, especially not even then, right? Like,
Right.
And the guy, he wanted the $150,000 up front.
Yeah.
Guy gave him the 100. I'm like, why would you do that, right? Gives him $150,000 up front. Guy frames the house. Never spoke to him again.
I was gonna say 150,000 is probably frame.
Yeah, he framed it, and I don't. It's rough, plumbed, and electric. But I don't know who did that. I don't know. So now he's calling us like because he's in our neighborhood of our office, and he was like, "Can you guys help me out?" This, that, and the other. So I went down and talked to the commissioner. He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I don't know, man." He's like, "I don't know what happened over there." The guy obviously, there's somewhere in the middle, right? Like you talk both sides. The truth's somewhere in the middle, but. But you had a lot of that going on. These guys are just coming in and just taking money, and building this crap, right?
Yeah.
So we do see a lot of that too.
So with those types of jobs, you must go in and inspect, make sure framing looks good, make sure rough plumbing looks good, electrical looks good.
Correct.
Before you put your name on it,
Correct.
I assume, right?
Yeah. So we went down. Like I said, I went down, had a conversation with the building commissioner. Kind of said. The things I caught real quickly walking around, like Cathedral Sailing, no LVL Ridge, but then I got to walk the plumber and I got to walk the electrician through, they got to go through it all. I mean, so we won't even touch that until we know, we won't even price it until we have an idea of like where you're at and what needs to be done. And that's kind of the process we're in right now, but, we've heard of, other nightmare stories where, guys are doing things that didn't know what they were doing. And then the inspector came through and they had to like knock the house down and rebuild it. And, like all kinds of crazy things that, with these inexperienced
Dude, could you imagine?
YouTube carpenters.
Can you imagine? Like you're so excited, right? Like you've always wanted to build your own house. Find this guy, seems great, starts building your house, disappears, and then the inspector's like, yeah, none of this is going to work. You have to tear it down.
Right.
Like I just crawl in a fucking hole.
So like one of the things I said and I was trying to like tread lightly on it, but I'm like, when I pull a permit, dude, I got to like give everything, right? Like I feel like I got to do like a blood test and stuff to get a permit, right? Like structural drawings, all this stuff. I was like, all right, so can I have the drawings so I can look at the drawings to see like what are you supposed to do versus what's there? And they're like, oh, this is the only drawing we have. Looked like something that was like drawn on a napkin. And I'm like, how the fuck does he even have a permit? Because he had a foundation. Well, maybe he just got a foundation permit, but he had a permit. Just wasn't signed off, right? And so it's like, how is he even getting a permit? Like, I mean, when we go through nowadays, it used to be like that. Like when I was like, 18 coming up in the business, you literally would just draw it out in the inspector's office and be like, this is what I'm doing. They'd be like, all right, cool, here's your permit, right?
Right.
Now it's architectural drawings, structural drawings, all your insurance paperwork, affidavits on everything.
Right.
If you have beams, right, like LVLs and things like that, they need to be structurally calced and sent in and approved, So it's like This isn't that long ago, so I don't understand how, you know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like, I think back then, with all the COVID crap that was going
Yeah.
on, they would just like, you know, because there's probably nobody in the office.
Well, there's
right?
nobody in the office. That was the thing. And like the inspectors didn't want to go to any job sites and like,
Yeah.
you know, so they were probably just
Yeah.
stamping shit.
So it's like things you don't think about with this COVID crap that like is still trickling down, right? Like all this in construction in our industry, you know, like just all this crap work that slipped through. Nobody was inspecting it. Nobody was there, you know, like now it's like, okay, now that customer that spent, you know, $200,000 on something back in 2019, 2020 is redoing that project because it wasn't done right and no one even looked at it. You know what I mean? Like it's so.
Yeah, it's scary.
It is. Yeah.
So as far as doing, you know, as far as growing the company, you said that you wanted to do like more kind of, you know, eco-safe or what's the word? More
high energy
stuff.
efficient, passive level-ish.
Yeah.
You know.
So and I follow you on Instagram. There was one job you were doing, and there was a foundation that you guys were doing.
Oh, the ICFs.
The ICFs, is that part of that?
It is, yeah. So we're one of the only. I don't think there's too many of us around that do ICF in this, like, you know, our area here in the Merrimack Valley, you know, North Shore.
So what is that?
So it's insulated concrete forms. So it's literally 2.5-inch styrofoam, basically, with webs in between that create a form for you to pour concrete in.
Interesting. And the styrofoam stays.
The styrofoam stays in place. Yeah, we actually waterproof the styrofoam and everything on the exterior, so it's all tight and everything.
So cool.
Yeah, it's wicked cool. And the best part about it for us is like you don't need, you know, a truck to lift forms in and carry these forms from jobs to job. We order them per job. They stay there.
Yeah.
We're off. See you later. Here's
And
your
it's
foundation.
foam, so you can just move the thing around.
The light is, you can carry a whole pallet yourself. You just throw it on your back. And the guys do it. It's hilarious. They just walk up with pallets. You know.
That's awesome. So, all right. So styrofoam on each side. You
Correct.
pour the concrete down the middle.
Yep.
And then
rebar.
what about the and rebar. And then what about the interior? You just frame over the
So
styrofoam?
the interior is a little tricky. You technically can go right to the styrofoam with the sheetrock. They have every 8 inches. They have these ribs, they're called, and the ribs actually can hold a screw just as well, if not better than a stud.
Huh.
So you screw your drywall right to the
You
rib.
don't even frame?
You don't have to frame.
No
it's already
shit.
insulated and framed. Technically, you're just putting drywall on it.
That's crazy. And so what about, have you had any issues with inspectors not knowing about this and being
every time.
no shit?
Yeah, they don't know anything about it, but they love it. You know, they're like, this is cool because I'm like, I got an R53 in the basement.
Right.
You know,
They're like, wait, what?
yeah. It's crazy. Yeah, and because you know Massachusetts wants us insulating the outside of the foundations now anyway. So we're putting an insulated form in. So we're done with it once we're done with it.
How long does the foam last?
That I don't know. Yeah, I mean that somebody asked me that and I was like, I have to look into that. Yeah, I mean I don't know if anybody would be able to answer that because it's not like a, you know, it's kind of, you know, recent, right? It's not like something you can go back 30 years and look at right now, you know.
Right. And I wonder if there's anything that like dissolves it or would like hurt it in some kind of way. It just, I don't know, it just seems strange to me. But at the same time, I feel like that's one of those materials that's like fucking plastic.
It's
probably
like
sit on the ground forever.
Yeah.
You know, the concrete will probably start dissolving before the styrofoam does.
Yeah. Well, the concrete's protected too by it, right? So, I mean, but if we're insulating anyways, we got to we're putting foam in the insulate, right? The rigid, you know, insulation. So it's the same theory as what they want us to do. It's just, it's the form and everything. So we don't have to, you know, take it off.
Now, what about, it's concrete. So your top plate, just same thing.
Yeah. They actually make a tapered top block so you can sit your plate right where you need to sit it and everything.
No shit.
Yeah.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, it's awesome. We can build. We've only done foundations around here. Nobody's want us to go keep going. We tried to talk one customer into it, but they didn't want to do it. I think everybody's just still afraid of concrete walls and floors.
Yeah.
But we can do the walls all the way to the roof. We can do the floors, all concrete, everything. So essentially the whole house could be concrete.
No way.
You can conventionally frame the roof, or you can actually do a concrete roof with epoxy. So it's 100% concrete. Yeah.
Dude, that'd be, talk about a brick shit house. Like,
yeah. And it's, 10 inches thick of concrete all the way up.
Right.
And what's cool about it too is that the webs have little channels in them. So you run your rebar right in the channels. So you don't have to like, you can set your rebar as you're going, building the wall. And it's like a big Lego set.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
I'm actually interested. So next time that you do one of those, let me know.
Yeah,
I'd like
definitely.
to like see it. I'm so curious about that.
Yeah.
I like new shit like that.
Yeah.
you know?
It's really cool.
So with that stuff, obviously that's what you're doing foundation wise. What else is kind of in that as far as your growth and stuff to be, a little bit better that way?
As far as energy efficiency.
As far as efficiency.
So we've looked into other products. We've started using different siding. We use, it's not really like an energy efficiency thing, but just kind of like overall product wise, we've been using LP Smart Side a lot, which we like better than Hardy. And that was more, the transition on that was more related to safety because, wearing the mask, you're cutting the cement board all the time with the Hardy, and LP Smart's like actual wood. So, and it's compressed and resin baked through every fiber. They actually use the glue or whatever they do to put it together on every strand of fiber to make this like, 1/2 inch, 3/8 thick board. And it comes pre-painted, so for us, for our guys, it was a lot better for them, safety wise and health wise. So that's one change we've made. We've kind of gone away from PVC a little bit too, because they make a trim in the same type of material. So we try to push that a little bit on customers. I personally think it looks better too, but that's just my own personal opinion. We trying to think of, other than that,
What do these things do as far as cost, as far as building? Like if you did just the standard way compared to the way that you're doing it with all of these things, there must be a price difference. Like what is that cost difference?
So the foundations are a little bit higher in cost, but I think it all comes down to a wash where you don't need to stud out. And like if you're doing a finished basement, it's a no-brainer, right? Like it's going to save you money, right? But if you're just doing a crawl space, it could be a little bit more on the expensive side for the crawl space. But, the value that it's bringing is the fact that, your crawl space is insulated and we're going to put a vapor barrier and rat slab, and it's going to be, it's going to be a much higher, efficient crawl space.
Right.
And I think, my own personal opinion, I don't know if this is, but the concrete's protected, right? So on both sides, so it might last, give it a little bit more integrity.
I feel like it must.
That's what I think. I'm not really, on that aspect of it. I don't know the science behind it, what I mean? But in my little pea brain, it seems to...
Well, and I'm sure it hasn't been tested over fucking 100 years.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
My little pea brain.
But other than that, it's just trying to, focus on, good building standards and practice and, trying to make sure that we're, structurally doing the right thing and, everything that we're doing, that we're trying to put the customer in the best spot.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's more challenging than others, like we're doing a job in Newbury right now that, we went there to just do, a dormer on the back of the house and, some interior upgrades. And when we got there, we gutted the walls because we were going to redo all the sheetrock on the walls. Right. So I got to see what was going on once we got the walls, and it's like an old cottage that was built into a house, on like the conservation Plum Island, Newbury line over there. And this house, literally the back of the house had no foundation under it. Nothing. It was daylight. You could crawl under it.
I think I saw the video.
Did you see that?
Yeah, it's like a White House or something like that.
Yep. And I'm like, holy cow. Like, it got to the point where I was like, the whole second floor was on 1 2x3. The entire second floor load came down, point loaded on a 2x3 with nothing under it.
Whoa.
I was like, everybody out of the house. Like we need to think about what we need to do here, right? So it was a situation where we couldn't knock the house down because it was an older couple. They didn't want the house on stilts. The town wanted the house on stilts if we knock it down. So we had to figure out a way to structurally rebuild this house from the inside of the house up without taking the exterior walls down.
Jesus.
So I came up with this drew it all out, came up with this whole plan. We had to give it to the structural engineer, and he's like, all right, yeah, that makes sense, And so now we gutted, everything but the exterior walls. We gutted everything. So it's like, almost like a balloon frame. It was balloon frame, right? So then we did 47 tubes underneath to be able to put girders to be able to run all the point load now onto So basically the whole house is supported but on itself in the interior of the house. Everything comes down in point loads.
That's insane.
Yeah. So we had I had to draw. So I like to say I know enough about being, drawing and stuff to be dangerous.
But at least you have you have a fact checker.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're not just like, these 47 tubes will work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, we definitely had it, looked at, and all the beams and everything are calculated and sized. And I was way over on my beams, and they had to I guess use like half the size beam, which was pretty cool. But, but the point of it is like, we really try to put, like we feel that for them, right? So like this old lady, I don't know if I should say that, but she's an older lady, and they're doing this renovation, and like I'm like, man, we just need to I want this to be, how can we make this so it works for them? They're in a shitty situation.
Yeah.
I when I presented the change order to her, like, because we had to do all this work, I'm like, listen, this is the worst thing I've ever had to do is send this, give this change order to somebody, because it was a significant amount of money, And I was like,
I was going to ask you like what that percentage was.
It was like it was a lot.
Yeah,
it was
sure.
It was a lot of work though too. So, but while we got into it, we were like, all right, we're making sure the vapor barrier down there is really nice. We installed a sub pump, because the water comes in, right? And one of the things I've learned. This job taught me a lot too, because I didn't deal with floods a lot, and one of the things I learned is you actually want the water to get in so there's no static pressure on the foundation. So we're actually going to put these things called flood gates or flood windows type thing in the foundation. I forget the actual technical word right now, but so when the water comes, it actually will open and let the water into the crawl space, and then there's some on the other side, so it flows without having to cause any pressure on the foundation, which is, it's not much of a foundation there. That's why we doing the whole thing. But, so what we decided is, okay, we can't stop the water from coming in, because if we try to stop it, we're just going to create so much pressure on the house that we could actually cause more damage than the water just getting in. Right. So what we decided was, all right, we can't stop the water from coming in, so let's try to dissipate the water as fast as possible, so we can get it out of there once it comes in. So that's why we sized oversized sub pump and put in some drainage and things like that to try to put them in, put them in the best situation they can be in. So, it's kind of job by job with what we do to, try to implement new things and different stuff.
Yeah. Well, talk about the importance of having a contractor that knows what they're doing. Can you imagine if you had some contractor that was just starting out 2 or 3 years in and got into that position?
Yeah, no, they
probably would have walked. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people probably would have walked.
We were working with Chris Crump on that. He was a designer there, and Chris grabbed me and he was like, "Man, I don't know anybody else would have put this amount of time into figuring out what the solution is." Because it took me I put a weekend of trying to figure out, and we didn't charge for that, right? Like, we're not charging for that time. It's just like, okay, I have a problem. I need to find a solution, right? And that's kind of just what it came to, so he kind of brought that up to me too. He's like, most of the guys I know would just be like, hey, figure out what you want me to do and get back to me when you're ready, and I like to try to have that hands-on approach. It's probably more, has a lot to do with the fact that I'm kind of a construction geek, a construction science geek, right? Like I, want to learn it too. So I was all over it. I didn't know anything about floods and static pressure until I started this job and learning, about it. Right. And now I know, okay, this is how I have to deal with that. Right. So now that's something I'm going to know the rest of my life. Right. Right. Yeah. So I wouldn't have known that if I just went, hey, sorry, go fuck yourself. You're in a bad situation. Let me know when you're ready.
And that's the thing. I feel like the education has value too, and that value sticks with you forever.
Correct.
So that value is almost better than monetary, because, money comes and goes, right?
Yeah.
Knowledge sticks. So,
correct.
And I think that in situations like that, most guys would have walked. Most guys would have came up with excuses. There's I'd say a small handful of people that would have taken the time to really kind of dig into that and figure out the solution. I try not to present a problem without a solution first, correct. Right? Yeah. Because then it just causes issues. Yep. If you go 3 days without an answer on a problem, you freak out about it, right? Mm-hmm. Like everybody does. But if you have a problem, you present a problem, you have a resolution, at least it sucks, it happened, but hey, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
So much better than being like, hey, you have a problem. Let me know when you figure it out. Good luck.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's kind of how we dealt with that, is when when we realized the severity of it, it was like we kind of pulled off. And the client at first was like, hey, how come nobody's here? You know, what's going on? And I didn't want to be like, well, because your house is about to fall down and I'm trying to figure out how to keep it from falling down, you know? But we just
Until I get back to you, wear a helmet.
Yeah. So he was like, can I come by and look? And I'm like, it's really not safe for you to be in the house right now, you know? But so I did, what really was going on is I was trying to come up with a solution before I went to them and said, hey, you know, especially something of that magnitude, right? Like, hey, you just bought this $400,000 lot essentially, you know, because this house is going to fall down. It's crap, you know.
Was it inspected?
There was a home inspector. Yeah. Nothing was found. Yeah. Yeah.
How the fuck does that work, man?
I don't know, man. If you went in the crawl space for 3 seconds, you'd see that there was no foundation.
That's another thing that drives me crazy. Like, people fucking rely on these inspectors to do their job and make sure that they're buying a safe piece of property, right?
Yeah.
Like, how can you do your job and call yourself a home inspector and miss the fact that this house doesn't have a foundation on the backside of it?
I don't know. I really, you know, and I know because I've done home inspector training.
Yeah.
For because we wanted to go by like their same systems and procedures when we do our assessments, just so we can kind of be aligned somewhat close to what they do. We're not even close to it because they don't really, you know, what they do and what we do is we're much more detailed. But I know they have paperwork that you sign off on that, like basically, like as soon as they're done, you know, you can't go back at them and say, hey, you didn't catch that this had a foundation, you know, and sue them or whatever. You know, they're kind of like tail light special, you know, like.
That's another business model that drives me out of my mind. You know, like, it's like, how can you say that I offer this service, right? And I'm inspecting your home and saying that your home is safe for you. This home is safe for you to purchase. But if it's not, sorry, you can't come after me.
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck? Why even have an inspection then?
Yeah.
Because it's like a fucking crapshoot.
I agree.
You know? I mean, I can see them missing certain things. Like, nobody's perfect, right? Like, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to miss some stuff, like 100%. Here and there. But, dude, something like that, like, that gets me fired up a little bit. Like, I want to find this guy and be like, bro, just drag him over there and be like, you fucking missed something.
Yeah, big time.
Right?
I mean, yeah. And you could tell, like, dude, when I first met with them, I was standing in what was going to be their kitchen, you know, and it was like, I was like at like a 20-degree angle, you know, and I'm like, something's not right here. You guys know that, right? And they're like, yeah, it's all right. We're just going to like put sisters on it and move it up, you know, 8 inches. And I'm like, yeah. But like something's going on here, you know, right.
Not here or here so much, but right here.
It turns out that like that entire area had no foundation and was nailed to nothing. It was just floating in the, you know,
That's fucking crazy, man.
And like I noticed that just stepping on the floor. You know
right.
what I mean, if I went in the crawl space, I definitely would have saw it, you know, what was going on.
But that's the thing, as a home inspector, those are the things you look for.
Exactly.
Right? Like, hey, well, this floor is a little wonky right here. I wonder why.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's take a look.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
oh, shit. There's not a foundation. Like, you know?
No, it's get it done quick, get the hell out of there, get the next one, right? I mean, was it like $300 an inspection they get or something, or 400 or 600? I don't know.
I think it's even more than that. I think it's like 600.
Is it 600? Yeah. So like if you can bang them out and get 3 of them in a day, right, versus 2, I mean, you're making more money. Right?
But again, it boils down to why I started this fucking podcast, man. Like, take some pride in what you're fucking doing. You know what I mean?
Agree.
Like, regardless of what it is. I don't care if you're cleaning fucking toilets.
Yep.
If you're cleaning toilets, you're doing a janitorial service, you're cleaning after people that don't care about keeping a space clean. Yep. Take some pride in it. If you're going to do it, just take some fucking pride in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Drives me out of my mind.
I always say my fault is I take too, like it gets to my heart too much, you know, like we had clients that are, everybody does, right? Like everybody has clients that are difficult. Like there's nothing you're going to do to make them happy. Right. And I get to the point where I get so upset, you know, because it's my baby. It's my, you know, that I go to my office and I'm like, look, I need to disengage. Like you guys need to handle them from here because I'm going to bring too much emotion into the situation, you know? So, you know, and I recognize that, you know, and I'll say that to them and that's what will happen. They'll, all of a sudden, you know, I'm fading out and then they're coming in and like, okay, what do we need? What do you need from us? You know? And because you do. I mean, it's your baby, it's your company, it's your name, it's everything, right? So when people are just not understanding or really difficult, you know, it's definitely affects you. You know,
for sure,
emotionally.
Yeah. I lose sleep over shit all the time.
Yeah,
even small stuff, man. I always have, but like at this point, I'm just. That's what it is. you know? But same thing. I have to remove myself from some situations as well. And then, you know, my designers sometimes like, listen, Frank, I can't I can't do this anymore with this person, you know, and or I have to step in and take it over.
I've heard that from your designers.
Yes, you have. But you know, and that's the way that it has to be, right? But then, you know, knowing that I have to go into that situation with a level head, like, and just try and do my best to make everybody happy, and you know, take a little bit of weight off of somebody's shoulders, because, you know, same thing, like the designers, the girls, they take a lot of pride in what they're doing, and like, not saying anybody's perfect, but like, if there is an issue and customer understands this is what happened, this is how we're going to fix it, you know,
correct.
That's all you can do, right? But like, some people just don't accept that, you know,
correct.
And it's hard to manage. And when you put a lot of time and effort and you like what you do and you're taking pride in what you do, when somebody attacks it like that, it's hard.
It is,
you know. So yeah, we pass some stuff back and forth sometimes too.
Yeah.
But there's been some jobs, same thing. I'm like, I'm done with this one. Somebody else is taking
I've got
this.
there too. Yeah.
Before I go and knock on somebody's door, like somebody else is taking this.
Yeah, 100%.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely have had, like, you know, the people that the most frustrating is the people that you just can't reason with, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're like I'm doing everything I can, you know, like, why didn't you do this? And I'm like, well, you just told me about that. I didn't know about. I don't read minds, you know, and they don't understand it, you know, that like when we bid and when we do these things, we try to bid them as close as we can, right? We don't bid them with like, maybe she's going to want to add dimmer on that. You know, I don't know. Or like, maybe she's going to want to, you know, put this here. We don't assume, right? Because then what if I assume wrong and now your price is way too high and I lose the job, or, you know, now you're mad at me that your price is too high, right?
Yeah.
So.
Well, at the same time, and just kind of piggybacking off that, there are so many moving pieces, and there's so many pieces in building a house. There's so many pieces in a kitchen. You can't make every single selection, nor can you really remember to have the customer make every single selection.
Correct.
Like what color your screws are going to be on your faceplate. You know what I mean? Like, dude, I'm thinking about framing and making sure you're living in a safe house.
Exactly.
I didn't think about the screws on the faceplate. You know what I mean? Like,
but then they'll act like you like don't know what you're doing because you didn't know what color the screws were going to be, right? It's like,
you know,
lady, I drew this house for you because the person you had draw it didn't know what they were doing. You know?
Right.
But I'm sorry, I put gray screws in.
Right.
You know, like that's kind of where it goes. Yeah, that's 100%. That's
for sure.
Our biggest thing, if we do have, they're not often, but you know, they're far and few. But when we do have those clients, it's always these like minute little, and it's like, okay, it's not a big deal, right? That's punch list stuff. We'll take care of it. Every job has a punch list, you know, and
some people just get super emotionally attached to it, or whatever it is, but they just want to be like a bully about it.
Exactly.
Like, you know, it's like, you know.
So
end of the day, it's tough.
I had a talk with my team about that, you know, with difficult customers, and it's like the talk we had was kind of like, let's look at this from a different view. Like, I know we all get upset, we all take pride in our work and our jobs and what we're doing, but like, let's look at that from their view now, right? Like, they're spending a lot of money most of the time, probably, you know, the most money they're going to spend on any one thing in their life, right? Like, you're putting a $300,000 addition on your house. That's probably the most you're going to spend on something other than buying another house, right? So it's stressful, and I get that, you know. And kind of the conversation that, you know, I had with my team is like, let's try to think about that when they're you know, maybe a little abrasive, right? Like, okay, they're abrasive because, you know, because I think we all take it as like they think we don't know what we're doing, right? You know, this, and it's
take
like
it as an attack.
An attack.
As soon as it's an attack, it's instant defense.
Correct. And it's like, maybe we need to like kind of sit back in those moments and be like, all right, you know, how are they feeling? You know, they're feeling like, okay, I'm spending a ton of money and my screws are gray and I wanted them white, and now this is a huge deal, right? And it's like, okay, for them, yeah, it's probably a huge deal. For us, it's like, oh, whatever, we'll just go grab a package of screws, right?
But it's fucking screws.
Yeah, but to them, it's a huge deal, and that's why, you know, we want to kind of take that step for a minute and be like, all right, we're sorry, right? Okay, maybe we, you know, own it. Who cares, right? Like, I should have thought about gray screws. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, that's not going to matter that you ate that. You know what I mean? That you took that hit. It's not going to. I know your pride. It does. You know, and believe me, I'm like the hardest one with that. You
and
know
you almost want to fight them over it, like, you know, but you can't.
Yeah, you know, and we've had people complain about, you know, schedule, but yet they've made 15, 20 change orders, right? And they're like, well, why are we off schedule? And it's like, well, you 15, 20 change orders, right? And you know, the new approach to that is like not say that, right? To be more like, we didn't communicate well enough for you, you know, to communicate the fact that yes, it is a financial impact, but it also is a scheduling impact, right? Mm-hmm. So that's on us, right? We should be communicating better and telling them, you know, that, you know, the two sides to that change order, right? Like, everybody cares about how much it's going to cost, right? But And that's the focus, and that's always been the focus. But now it's like we also need to talk about what that's going to do to impact the schedule,
right?
And then that creates more of a collaborative environment where now we're not fighting in the back of the house, in a screaming match because we're 2 weeks over schedule. You know what I mean? It's everybody knows it going into it. Do you really want to still do this change order because it's going to not only cost you $20,000, but it's going to be 3 weeks of work,
right? Yeah, but you almost have to, it's hard not to look at it. Of course, we do it every day, right? Obviously, the homeowners aren't doing it every day. They maybe do it twice in a lifetime, right? But you almost think that like there's like this obvious point, right? You want us to change a work order and add more work to a schedule that we already have. It's going to cost this amount of money, this amount of time for us to do it. Obviously, it's going to affect the time frame. But that's not the argument you can really have. But like sometimes you think like, of course it's going to take longer. Like you just added this, and this takes this much time. Like it's not like the time just disappears on the ass end.
So a buddy of mine, when he had his toddler, he was like, I read this article that said when you have a toddler, you lose so much sleep that it's basically like you're walking around drunk every day of your life, right? And as you were just saying that, I'm like, I have a feeling it's like the same effect when you spend a lot of money. You almost like have that like, mental effect to you that like you're not reasoning correctly. You know what I mean? And
it's probably true.
You know what I mean? So like you're like, I don't care, why you got to do extra work. I still want it done. I want it done. I got a party I'm going to throw on the 20th. Like it's almost like when you're that invested in something as the client, I think. And again, I'm kind of guessing here, right? I'm not usually the client, but when you I just spent all this money and my house is under construction and I'm super nervous about this. Did I go the right direction? Did I hire the right guy? Like all these things are probably running through their head, right?
Yeah.
So I think the reasoning, good people become a little weird. You know what I mean? Like reason leaves a little bit. They're walking around drunk. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of
toddler drunk.
Yeah, toddler drunk. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. I feel like it's the same thing. If you said like, it's going to cost you $20,000 for us to do this. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Like that $20,000 is going to come out of your bank account. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's like same thing. Yeah, it's going to take 10 more hours for us to do that. That's going to add 10 more hours onto the the schedule.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess and again, I think that the good approach, like you said, is kind of peeling everybody back and say, all right, look at this from your point of view. It's almost like everybody that's in construction should have a house built. Yeah. To get an idea of it. Like Priscilla, one of our designers, like just had a big renovation, started off with just a kitchen and turned into...
She didn't call me?
I think she actually did.
She called me?
She might have.
No way.
I think. Maybe she did. I'm not sure.
You're just trying to cover for Priscilla right now. That's all right. It's cool. She went with somebody else.
Dude, I think she did call it. I think she actually did. I'm going with she did. I'm probably 80% on that. But no, she went with this guy, Dave Clark Building. He's a good dude. Yeah. But yeah, no. So she, it's supposed to be kitchen renovation. They were going to take down a wall, put in the kitchen, kind of do flooring, regular stuff. But, then it landed, there was a bunch of rot. There was, a whole bunch of stuff that just completely spiraled out of control, and obviously with all of that pushes the schedule off, costs a lot more money. Yep. And I think that it really put it into perspective for her as far as like, this is what people are dealing with, Yeah. Because like even for like a couple of weeks, she came in an hour late every day so that she could be there to manage what was going on in the morning before she came into the showroom. Sure. And I'm like, so you're trying to manage your personal life and your business life just like all of our clients are right now, so that's, you have to be just conscious of that. Like you have to 100%. Understand that like these people, or like if somebody doesn't respond back right away over an answer, like you're doing this all day long, you're getting paid to do this job. You're getting paid to write the email to ask the question. Yep. They're trying to make the money to pay for this. They're trying to advance their careers. They're trying to pick up their kids from school. They're, you can't take it all personal. Like they're also busy in their personal life. Correct. So I think it's easy both ways for the client to kind of not understand and be understanding of the situation, but also for the contractor or whoever it is to not understand the same thing. Yeah.
And obviously everybody talks about this too, but like the whole HGTV factor, plays into everybody thinking that, we show up and just attack a house and we're done everything in 2 weeks and it's, clean and beautiful and, there's oranges on the countertop when we're done. And, and I think that's a, definitely plays a role in it, and, We try to cater to that a little bit too, where, and I think a lot of builders do nowadays, it wasn't so personalized, the building process, I think, years before. Excuse me. You kind of got what you got type of deal, right? But I think now we try to personalize it a lot more where go down and we have relationships with kitchen designers, flooring people, the painter will walk and go over what paint they should use. And, we'll do 3 different paints on a wall. And, so there is a lot of that now. And I think for us, a lot of that is to try to avoid those situations, right?
Yeah.
So we're being more personalized to that customer. You guys are going over every little cabinet detail they can do. The flooring guys are showing them 17,000 different types of floor that they can, purchase. And, another big thing that we did is we don't supply the flooring and stuff like that anymore because it's so hard. It's so all over the place, with cost that we're look, we'll tell you we'll provide what we need to install it and we'll provide the labor to install it. We just ask you to buy the flooring, right?
Yeah.
So buy the tile, have the tile shipped here. We'll even go pick it up if we have to, but you know what I mean? Just you pick the tile, you purchase the tile, and we'll handle everything else, right? Because then you get into this fight of well, I gave you a $5 allowance and this tile is $7, so now you get a, $2 per square foot change order or whatever, the thing may be. So we're learning as we go to avoid some of that too, and we definitely had, those kind of customer interactions when we first started, but now we have what's called we call it an exclusions meeting to the client. We tell them it's a pre-construction agreement meeting. And basically it's to go over and be look, this is what we're doing, right? If it's not here, we're not doing it,
Yeah.
Or you got to pay for us to do it, right? So it's we're all on the same page, right?
Yeah.
It's on Zoom, it's being recorded, it's you know what I mean. We want to make sure that everybody's, and it's CYA, right? But it's also that level of communication that we want to have, right? We want to make sure that we're not hiding anything, right?
Yeah.
Our proposals are 5 pages long.
Yeah.
It's just a proposal because it's just line by line by line by line, everything, siding material, siding labor, flooring material, flooring labor, whatever it is that we're doing. And the reason for that is we hear lots of times oh, I got a bid from another guy and it was just $230,000. That was it. No, how did you get there? How did, you know what I mean? And we've won jobs maybe as the higher bid because we were more open and transparent in our proposals. So it's all about that communication is what it comes down to, right? It starts right at the proposal.
Yeah.
So
what about the customers though that want to just rush it? They don't want to do any of that. They want to get started right away.
Yeah, we have those too.
Because that's the hard part, right? Is you put all these procedures in place because of issues that you've had in the past, right?
Yeah.
And then you have all these procedures in place and you have to go through, this is what we do, this is how we do it, this is what you're getting, this, and you try to do all these things to make sure that communication is open all the way across.
Yep.
But then you get those people that are well, you already took the measurements. Why can't can I just have the design? And it's and it's can we just order cabinets? We need to order these cabinets tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it's okay, well, we can do that and we're going to help you. And if that's what you want us to do, it's fine. But we go through this process so that we don't have mistakes.
Yeah.
But then those people are the people that have an issue with the mistakes.
Yeah.
And it's
100%,
well, again,
time.
we wanted to talk to you about all of this stuff up front. You wanted to pull the trigger really fast. This is what we did.
Yeah.
And now this is the issue that comes from that. And that's why we have these procedures in place, but
I think it's a tough situation, obviously, right? And I think me from 3 years ago or so would just do whatever they wanted, right?
Yeah,
and,
right.
I want to make you happy. Yes, I'll do it. And then I end up in shit, right?
Deal with it on the tail end.
Yeah. But me now, I understand that you have this, what you want to do, but we need to go through this process, and I'm not going to do the job unless we go through this process.
Yeah.
And what I find is that people respect that, and they calm down, right? They're okay, I get it. Look, you're hiring us for a reason. Yeah. Right? Because we have these processes, we have these SOPs, right? And that's why you're hiring us, because we're able to organize and orchestrate this job to a level that you want it done at. Yeah. So if you're going to go and cut me off at the legs, then I'm not going to be able to run this job the way that you expect me to and I expect us to.
Yeah.
So usually when one of us can explain to them, that in some sort of way, they get it.
Yeah.
And but That said, course of construction, that all goes out the window.
Right.
So it's like, oh, we need to get done in 2 weeks. And it's like, well, your cabinets are 6 weeks out.
Right. Yeah. And then you get the people that are like, well, can you call the factory and see if they can build them faster? It's like,
yeah, your one job, they'll get right on it.
Right. Yeah. That's always fun, man. The people with the time crunches, like, I get it. Like, we have a couple right now that, just bought a new house, first time home buyers, like really excited to get the project going. And they have the lease on their old place until a certain date, like date X. And they're like, can we get it done before date X, before we move in? And it's like, we just started the process.
Yeah.
Like that is probably not realistic.
Yeah.
Because we have to go through the systems. We have to go through all these procedures. Like we have other clients that we're working with. Like we can't just put you to the top of the pile, and it's just, those are the ones that are just like hard to just like, choke them back a little bit.
We have 2 of those right now ourselves that, and we tried to, be open, proactive in it, but, it still doesn't really hit home, I don't think, until, you're wrapping up, right? And now it's like, well, we got a punch list that's like crazy, right? Because you got guys just flying around in there, and the level of detail isn't what it should be, and that's probably my fault, right? Like I just said I try to be, right? But this wasn't like they're both like kind of renovation type, quick hitters type things. Which we probably wouldn't even have done in the past, but now we do. Yeah. So I would probably take the blame on that. Like I probably should have been more like absolute, that date's not going to be able to happen, things like that. But
it sucks telling the people that.
It does. Yeah. And it's kind of like a hit to me too, because I'm like, I can get it done, man.
I can get it done, right?
You know what I mean?
Same thing, dude.
And the guys,
I'll stay up late tonight.
Yeah. And the guys are like that too, right? They're like, oh, that's nothing. We'll get it. But then what happens is you're like, it takes longer than you thought. One little thing now, and in both cases, that's what happened. Like open walls up in this ducts, where the one you guys are doing for us in Wakefield. Yeah. Ducts in the wall, right? And then we had to figure out, okay, can we open this wall up now? Can we not open the wall up? We went through like 3 weeks of like, how do we change the mechanicals? You know what I mean? But the date didn't move. Right. You know what I mean? Like the guy's still like,
Yeah. Well, that's what we were just talking about, man. It's like, this is the expected done date, but I don't know what's behind that fucking wall.
Exactly.
Like I don't know what we're gonna run into. Like
exactly.
My buddy Mark, Mark Collier. Yeah. He just so he's kind of getting in on like the Forge in the Field thing. He sent me a couple of videos yesterday, and they're doing a big renovation, and there was an addition putting on the house, and they were told there was a fucking carrying beam in there. Open up the walls, dude. Nothing. And he's like, that puts us out 2 weeks, a week and a half, 2 weeks at least. And now, like, I have all these other jobs lined up. I have to call people, make sure I line up the trades for these other things and like all these other things. And, it's like, but the customer still thinks that like, we're still on for this date. It's like, that's not the way it works. I know it's going to cost you more money, but that doesn't speed up the time frame.
Well, that's the problem is they all focus on the money. Right. And that's what, what we were talking about earlier. Like and what I said to my crew, like, we need to also focus on the schedule. We need to force them to focus on the schedule, right?
Yeah,
because they just look at, well, how much is it going to cost me? It's like the schedule is like, in the back of their mind until it's not. You know what I mean? Until it's like a week before we're supposed to be done, and it's like, whoa, wait, why aren't we going to be done? And it's like, well, you remember that 4 months ago when you wanted to rip out all the hardwood floor? Like, that's why we're not going to be done.
Right. Which just seems like it's so common sense, but it's not.
Yeah.
Because again, they're not doing this every day.
Correct.
They're focused on the money. And they have that date in their mind.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's like, I almost want to be like, hey, listen, if you just sold your house and you're moving into something else, I don't even want to do it because, I get the whole, I'm not going to have anywhere to live. I'm not going to, and it's like, I get that, but like, dude, I didn't tell you to rip your whole house apart, like, I'm trying to work with you here.
Yeah, I just had one. They trying to move the guy in last weekend, and like countertops got templated on Thursday.
Yeah.
They're like, can we get the countertops installed over the weekend? I'm like, dude, we just literally, like, he hasn't even made his final selection yet. It's Thursday. Turnaround time on most fabricators, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, I can get it in a week for you.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry that he doesn't have a place to live until it's done. But like, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I got template scheduled as soon as you wanted me to.
Yeah.
So it's like, Same thing, man. It's, everybody wants it like just right now sometimes. And it's so stressful for us, man, because like, of course we want to do that, right?
I would
like
love to. I'd make more money.
Right. Same thing. Like, right. And like
less time on the job.
I'd make more people happy. We just want to make people happy with the service. Like, but at the end of the day, I can only control so much, same thing. Like these logistics companies that we deal with, our fabricators, our manufacturers, outsource all their logistics. So it's outsourced to another company, some of these bigger logistics companies. And then, we get a date from the company and they say, all right, well, we'll be there on the 18th with, 116 cabinets. All right, sweet. So I have 4 orders on that. I have 4 kitchens, contact everybody. Hey, just heard from the truck. We're going to have cabinets on the 18th, start scheduling deliveries. And everybody, of course, has been waiting for cabinets. Everybody's always waiting for fucking cabinets. So truck doesn't show up on the 18th. Right. And then I have all these things scheduled for deliveries. My delivery crew has already scheduled all these things in their schedule. So like it's already blocked off to be, and then they don't show up. And then they don't show up until the 20th. And then
but you're the piece of shit. For
right.
That.
But then everybody wants it on the 20th. Fuck, man. Like, and I wish that I could just load up my truck and just go deliver them all myself. Like I would,
Yeah.
But it's like, there's just some things that are just kind of out of your control,
Yeah, I'm the same way. It's like, do you think I want to be on this job for the next 3 weeks? Like,
right.
I'm scheduled to be on another job. Like, I want to be off on paid, see you later, moving on to the next one, right? Like, I don't want to be here longer than I intended to be, you know, because most of the time, and especially if it's like a delivery issue, a logistical issue, like we're not charging the customer for that. So like we're just on the job more, you know what I mean? Longer than we thought. So we're actually probably losing money because we're not on something else that we could be on, right? So it's, I don't know. People think that we're just like this big, I don't know what, but
magician.
Yeah. Like we can just make anything happen, know, because you see it on, again, HGTV, you see it on TV, right? These guys just.
The truck showed up the same episode.
You know what I mean? Like they renovated a kitchen in 30 minutes. Like, wait a minute.
Do you mean cabinets are going to take 6 weeks?
Yeah, you didn't see all the edited cuts where the guy was swearing at him, smashed his thumb, found a pipe in the wall.
Cabinet came in the wrong size.
Yeah, exactly. Craziness, But,
yeah, man. Yeah, I feel like we could talk shit like that all day long about stuff, But at the end of the day, man, we're both, and all of us in the trades, I think, especially the guys that take pride in what we're doing the best that we can. We're trying to make everybody happy
100%.
And, doing everything we can to make everyone happy and be clear with conversations and be clear with all of our communications. And, it's just nobody's perfect at it. And we strive to be better and better every day. But, some things slip through the cracks and things happen and, it sucks. And, it is kind of is what it is.
I think as a whole, the industry's gotten a lot better with that, with the communication. And I think like we have a lot more good contractors than we did, 20 years ago.
Maybe you're just surrounding yourself with better people.
Maybe it could be. Yeah, maybe.
You know what I mean? There are still some shit bags out there.
Oh, there's always going to be shit bags. But I feel like, the newer generation of, like the late 20s, early 30s that are actually, in construction, builders or doing GC work or whatever, like, I feel like they're starting to utilize, all the stuff that's come a long way, like the softwares and things like that. You know what I mean? So I feel like there is a lot more companies coming up that are, kind of like what we're doing, trying to be over communicative and things like that. And more so than like when I was 20, dude, like it was like the builder may not show up, right? Like it was like, I don't know, what time's the bar open? Because you know what I mean? Like,
and there's no cell phone. You can call the house and leave a message on the answering machine.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's probably a good part of it, actually, right? Is the whole like you can't get away from anybody. Right. It's actually
direct communication.
That's a whole nother freaking conversation, man. That's
It's and I think that I think you're right, and I think things have gotten better and better because expectations have gotten better and better, right? Like 20 years ago, the expectation wasn't that like I can pick up the phone and call you and get in touch with you right now.
Correct.
The thing is you called the phone, and if they answered, great. If they didn't, you leave a message on an answering machine, and they're not going to hear it until Thursday, and then they're not going to call you back until the following Monday. And that was just what that expectation was because everything wasn't moving so fast. Correct. I think that things just continuously move faster and faster, and that's kind of what that expectation is. And then same thing with communications, right? Like we just got the software from John we've been working on for about a year for like all of our updates and stuff. And like, because people expect that. People, and you have companies like Amazon that like, all the communications there. As soon as you order, it's, sent on a truck. You have it in 3 hours, and it's like, crazy.
Instant gratification.
And it's instant communication all the time and tracking and all this type of stuff. So if you're not keeping up with that, then you're not keeping up with the expectations. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because and we do the same thing. I mean, we do daily reports. We do, on our Bradford home service side, you get a text the day before, you get a text when the tech's on the way, you get a text that the job was done, you get, you know what I mean? So it's just like constant in your face, here we are.
Yeah. We just started doing that too.
Did you? Yeah. It's pretty cool actually. But the second that you can't respond right away, right? Like, so I try to disengage, at 4 p.m., right? Like I'm very rarely am I actually out at 4 p.m. though, right? But like I try to say my office hours are 8 to 4, right? Yep. And 4 p.m. I try to say, okay, I'm either with my family or I'm running around coaching softball somewhere or something, and I try not to answer my phone, but it goes, man. Like I have customers call me at 8 o'clock at night, you know what I mean? And it's like, there's no boundaries anymore. You know what I mean? It's like, you got to set those boundaries or else, and I have a hard time with that, because, I want to, be available and I want to, again, I like to deal with things head on, right? So like something's going on at 6, 7 o'clock at night. I'm going to, what's going on? You know what I mean? Like I want to deal with it now. I don't want to wait,
But you almost have to, because that's what the expectation is. And if you don't, then you're not hitting expectations. So it's like you almost have to. I mean, for me, like you're one builder. I work with a bunch of different builders, and like the builders are the same way. But again, they're the ones that's dealing with the client. Correct. So like the client's contacting them. Hey, where are my cabinets? Builder's calling me. It doesn't matter what day it is, what time it is. Like, and for me, like I'm loyal to my builders, so it's like I have to answer that call regardless. So it doesn't matter what I'm doing. You know, and I tell people all the time, like I've sold kitchens on the top of mountains multiple times, literally. I've sold cabinets on lacrosse fields multiple times. I sold a kitchen on a fucking airplane. Because it's just that's what the expectation is, and that's.
I've done it.
That's what we do.
Yeah. Usually I'm in a softball field somewhere, taking calls. That change order for the one that I was talking about, the big change, that I did that in the middle of a softball game. I think I was coaching third base. So I hear it, and it's I mean, my age, I'm 43, right? So like you're probably your age group too, right? It's like that one age group. It's kind of like unique, right? Like where we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have this stuff, and kind of came up without that stuff, and then had dial-up AOL, and like so we've kind of like lived through all of it, you know what I mean? So like I can remember the days that like no one could find me, or like I'd get in my truck and just drive. I used to love to just like drive up to New Hampshire, like, and just aimlessly, like literally flip a quarter at like stops at intersections, and like I didn't have a phone, no one knew where I was, like I could have been dead on the side of the road somewhere and nobody would have known, but like it was awesome. You could you could totally disengage, right? You can't do that now. There's always a way for someone to get in touch with you, you know? So that's why I like the float, the soundproof chambers.
The sound deprivation, man.
Yeah, man. That is like saves my life, I think, sometimes. Because I don't get cell phone service in that building to begin with, which is awesome.
Perfect. Right.
And then I get in that, that sound deprivation chamber, and I'm just like gone. Like no one can get me. Like I don't even know where I am. I'm floating around in space.
Feels like you're in space. Right?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Are you still doing that?
I do. Yeah.
Oh yeah, man.
I try to as much as I can.
I actually haven't been up in a while. I've been going to this new place called Wellness Hot Yoga down in Haverhill.
Oh yeah.
That's like right downtown, and they have a couple of sound deprivation tanks. They have the infrared sauna.
Oh, they have it right there.
Well, they have infrared. They have a sauna. They have the sound deprivation. They have like massage, they have hot yoga classes, they have a whole bunch of stuff. But it's a cool little spot. It's like right downtown. It's like pretty cheap too. So
that's cool.
I've been kind of going over there. So. It's a little bit closer than going to float up in New Hampshire for me.
Yeah, so. For me too. I mean, I live right there, so that would be. I didn't know they had the sound deprivation.
Yeah,
chambers.
they have 2 of them. Yeah,
those things are key, man. Those are.
And the owner's cool people. She does a ton with the community. Yeah, it's a cool little spot.
If you own a business or. And not like, okay, you got to be okay with confined spaces, but but it is the best thing for business, I think, anyways, right? Because it's like you just are gone, no one can find you.
Well, I'm big into meditation, and meditation is living here in the now, like not thinking present, not thinking past, not thinking future. Like this is where I am right now, and there's so much value in mental health and spiritual health in that sound deprivation is like taking meditation to the next level, to like the next step. I love that shit. I just spent a weekend for Labor Day weekend. I've been so stressed, dude, like so much stuff going on. And I went up to Stoneham, Maine went up for 2 days. We got a little fucking Airbnb, just like a little cottage on a lake up in the middle of nowhere in Maine. And I put my phone on Do Not Disturb, which means that my contacts can contact me because I can't relax unless I know my boys can get in touch with me. That's all I really care about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't look at my phone, dude. I didn't know what time it was the whole time I was up there.
That's awesome.
I ate when I was hungry. I drank when I was thirsty. I went to sleep when I was tired. If I wanted to get a fire going, I got a fire going. If I wanted to get out in the lake on the kayaks, got out in the kayaks. Like,
That's great.
that is the only way that I am able to like just regroup. And
Yeah.
I don't do it often. My phone's on 24/7 most time, you know, but every now and then I gotta peel away just to have that time to live presently, man. Like we do all of this for a reason, you know, and to enjoy fucking life for a couple of days and just be present that's it for me. You know what I mean? Especially like up in the woods and like in the middle of nowhere.
Fuck, man, that's where I would like. So my wife and I joke all the time because we live in Haverhill and she wanted a walkable neighborhood. I'm like, you haven't walked the fucking neighborhood in 3 years, right? But I'm like, I'm the complete opposite. Like I want to be like in the freaking tip of Maine, just put me in the woods and let me survive. You know what I mean? Like that's where I'd love to be. But you know, someday I'll be gone and I'll be coming back every now and then. Just, you know,
just give me an
maybe
address,
I'll
bro.
grow a beard by then.
Give me an address. I'm coming to visit.
But yeah, that's the disconnecting for me is huge, and it's hard. You know, it is definitely hard as a that's probably the biggest, like the hardest transition from working for somebody to working for yourself is that you know, you don't get to just punch out and go home, you know, and everybody knows that as a business owner, but it's finding those ways to, you know, disengage for some, even if it's for an hour, right? Like to be able to like collect your thoughts, get your memory, you know, because the mental health is huge, man, you know, and you know, especially guys, right? Because we have like a way of like, you know, we could be suffering and we don't want anybody to know, right? Or like we're overextended, but I'll never tell you I'm overextended, right? So being able
there
to,
will
like,
be signs.
There will be signs. Yeah, exactly.
So if I bite your head off over like, you know, too much honey in my coffee, then you know, that's a sign.
Exactly. Yeah, we probably we vent the wrong way most of the time, right? But
always probably, but
you know, but not having that outlet, a healthy outlet, right, is you know, that's what we need, and that for me, that's what that sound deprivation is. You know, that's definitely a way that I do it. But
dude, next time you want to go, let me know. We'll go a little.
We're gonna float together.
I mean, I'm not gonna get in the same.
In the couple.
I'm trying to go in there fucking balls out, but I mean, if you're comfortable, I'm comfortable. Whatever. The water's warm enough.
Just hold hands so we don't bump into each other.
Dude, my first time in one of the sound deprivation tanks, I went in and I would think it was an hour, and you know, I've been into meditation for a few years, so I was like, oh, this is gonna be sweet. Like I'm gonna sit in there and just, you know, be present, get into a good meditative state. And at one point, I don't know if I dozed off or if I just was, you know, deep in the meditative state, but like I came to. Yeah. And I was like, couldn't see fucking anything, bro. I freaked out for a minute, right? Like I thought I was gonna drown. I was like, holy shit, what's going on? Like, and then I was like,
can't see nothing.
Right. Nothing.
Yep.
Can't hear nothing.
Nope.
Like nothing.
Yep.
And then I like remembered that I was on that's floating in 6 inches of water in this big fucking egg looking thing. Like, all right, you're okay, Frank. You're all right. Like, settle the fuck down.
It's a trip, man. I can remember once I was like, you get like meditating or something, you know, because that's what I'll try to concentrate on my breathing, you know, and sometimes I'll fall asleep from that. But you know, I remember one time I thought I was standing upright. Like I'm laying down in water, right? But I thought I was standing on my feet. Like in like I don't even know what. Like just nothingness. You know what I mean?
Right. And that's what's cool about it.
Yeah.
It's like you literally can't feel anything because, like, if anybody has never been in the deprivation tanks, like you're in water that's so much salt in it that you're buoyant and you can't feel anything. And the water is the same temperature as the air, so it's like you're floating, but you feel like you're floating in fucking air.
Yeah, you don't feel anything. Yeah. So it's freaky if you like get real deep into like meditation or something like that, and you like forget where you are. And 100%. I've had that happen. Yeah, but I love it though.
Yeah, me too, man.
I actually like when that happens.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, we joke about it on a podcast. All right, man, we're running into time here. Let's talk about Toolbox tips, bro. I feel like we talked a lot about pain points actually through most of the podcast. I mean, so Toolbox tips, you give everybody just a tip. And before I get into it, if you like the podcast, if you're listening, if you're getting anything from this and you want to continue listening, like, subscribe, share, tell your friends about it. We can't make this thing work without all of your support. So just go on, like it, share it, do whatever you got to do, but support us so we can keep this thing going. Yeah, man, Toolbox tips. So practical advice you give to somebody that wants to get into construction or wants to start a construction company or is maybe in the same position you were in, right? Comfortable in a job, but really thinking about doing something else. Like, what is that piece of advice you would give them?
So as far as getting in construction, I would...
Don't do it.
No, quite the opposite, actually. I would say do it because, like, we need people, man. Like, we're struggling. I think, like, the average carpenter right now is, like, 50 or something, or mid-40s.
Wouldn't be surprised.
So we need, less people in the office and more people in the field, right? Or we're going to run out of people in the field, know? So if you're thinking about going in construction, I think, we're two people right here. Neither one of us came from anything. Neither one of us have a lot of education behind us, and we do pretty well, right? So, I mean, you can do well, in construction with a little bit of drive and wanting to learn, right?
Grit and resilience, man, and your story spoke highly of it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. But I think especially like growing up for me, like, it was always like, you got to go to college. Obviously, that didn't happen for me till later in life. But, I think we're in a unique spot right now where college is I'm not trying to knock going to college. I'm not trying to say don't go to college. I'm just saying if you're not going to go for something that's going to be, if you're going to be an art major, like, or whatever, maybe that's your thing or whatever. But, like, if you're not sure, go in the trades, right? Like, you can do really well for yourself and your family in the trades, you know. And I think getting that to the high school kids, the tech kids, the vocational kids, and don't focus so much on the focus on what you can do. You might not want to sit in a class. Not everybody wants to sit in a classroom all the time, right? But you can still make a great career out here swinging a hammer or being a plumber or an electrician or especially an electrician. They think they're doctors. You know what I mean? Right. Like that's a dig at Brendan. So I guess that's one half of it. My answer, if you're thinking about going in construction, do it. Right? Like, just give it a shot. Give it a shot, right? If you hate it, then go to school. Then figure something else out. If you're young, most of them, you're going to like it, right? You're outside, you're doing things, I mean, it's at the end of the day, you can look back and see what you did. It's tangible.
Tangible, man. Instant gratification. And that's one of the big things that I pitch. And again, another one of the reasons that I started the podcast, same thing that you're talking about, is like, there's just not enough of us out there. Let's create some fucking pride in what we're doing. Let's create some interest, man. Like, you can do this without going to school. I got expelled from high school sophomore year. I was supposed to be dead a long time ago or in jail. Here I am. You know what I mean? So, like, that's the avenue that the trades can give somebody like that. And it's when I was on job sites, man, we were the youngest crew on job sites by fucking 30 years. There was nobody ahead of us and nobody behind us, and we need to get some people in the trade. So I think it's great advice if you're thinking about getting into the trade, just give it a shot.
100%. Yeah. And like I said, it doesn't even matter. You could get in one trade and then decide you want to do a different trade.
Right.
And learn that while you're working that other trade. Like, I just hired a kid that's 18 years old. He's going to come in as a laborer for us. But he wants to be a plumber. But he's going to work with us as a laborer. Probably going to learn carpentry and everything else while he's there. Right, but then go to plumbing school at night and maybe become a plumber. Maybe he won't want to become a plumber once he's a carpenter for a few years. Who knows, right?
But think about how valuable learning carpentry is to a fucking plumber.
Huge, right? To have that understanding of how we build things and stuff like that. I mean, that's huge. And then the other, I guess, part to your question is if you're going to start a construction company, right? And for me, this is my technically third, because I just started a second company, but it's the second company that I started from the ground up, right? The first one was more windows and doors related, but excuse me.
Well, you did those penis pumps for a while too.
Yeah, but that didn't pan out because it was just tip. That's all I had. So all you have is just, no matter what pump you have, it's still just tips. So
sorry, I don't know where that came from.
I put a lot of effort into it with a little bit of result.
Really pumped that one up.
Anyways, this time around, the biggest thing that I noticed was from going to work for the other company, learning all the stuff I learned, really sitting down, having a business plan, really kind of like scoping out the next 5 years, right? Like going into it with that like plan of attack, like don't just say tomorrow, hey, I'm going to grab a tool belt and become a cop, and be, start my own company, right? But really kind of think about everything that's involved with that, right? Like I didn't go live until, especially with Bradford Home Services, because I was even more involved in building companies by that, because I just did Bradford management too. So, I didn't go live until I was legally structured right, had all my contracts done by a lawyer.
Right.
Like that's huge because, unless you are very well educated in law, there's the HIC program and everything, you need to have certain things in all your, I would say most of the guys don't have what needs to be in their contracts, right? So spending a few $1,000s, it's going to be some startup cost, right? So spending a few $1,000s and getting that done by a lawyer is huge, right? Your service agreements, your construction agreements, subcontractor agreements, that's a huge one too, because, we just ran into this with a guy, he was a painter, and we were like, we want you to do, the customer wants touch-ups. And he's like, well, I'm not doing it. And we had 10% left to pay him or something like that, or 15%. And I'm like, well, you're not going to get paid. You gotta do the touch-ups, like that's part of the, and he was like, no. And I'm like, well, you signed this, like
and this contract says touch-ups.
This contract says the customer has to sign off on your work, right? Like, so he has to do it, and it was not like we're being dicks. It was reasonable. It was the guy didn't back roll a wall in one wall and it looked like shit. Like you got to have some pride and get your shit done, right? But
it's not about being a dick, man. At the end of the day, good paperwork makes good friends make good business.
Correct. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So basically do your, your due diligence and get that done right, correctly. And a good accountant.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I would say.
I like it, man. I like it. Yeah,
I feel like I'm running way over on time on you here. Like
I don't even pay attention to the time. This is like my meditative state. John's probably like throwing shit at us like, hey, let's fucking wrap this thing up. Cool, man. Well, thanks for coming on, brother. I'm glad that we got to do this. I'm glad we got to joke around a little bit and kind of share your story and shit. And
definitely like to come back sometimes. There's probably way more that we didn't get to talk about.
So. Oh, for sure. And I feel like that like every time. I'm always like, oh man, there's so much shit I wanted to talk about, but I like stop myself. But yeah, we'll have you on again, man. We'll do this thing again. And kind of see how Bradford the home services are going.
Yeah, hopefully we get a pretty good update next time. That would be awesome. Look out for our commercial on TV too.
Hell yeah, Comcast.
Yeah. Hopefully you can watch it when you stream, because I haven't had cable in 10 years. But
yeah, so Rick's famous is what he's saying.
My 2 lines.
All right, cool. Thanks for listening, everyone.
All right. Bye-bye.